For this video, I'm going to explore what's left of the old Saturn car dealership that was located in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm a huge car enthusiast. I love pretty much all cars, whether they're high-performance vehicles like exotics or muscle cars. It doesn't really matter where they're from either. I mean, I'm a big fan of the domestic cars as well as European and Asian sports cars especially. And honestly, I am frustrated that some of the better brands like Plymouth and Saturn and Pontiac have been discontinued because those were really great brands. My father had a Plymouth Duster. I owned a Plymouth Duster. I almost bought a Saturn Sky, so that's how I ended up here today because I really love the Kappa cars. I own a Pontiac Solstice, and I can appreciate the Saturn Sky. It had that baby Corvette styling. I really loved the look of those cars. I vividly remember going to the Auto Show in Motion, which was this cool GM event that they held at Epcot in Orlando, and you used to be able to test drive like 80 to 100 different GM cars and compare them to other manufacturers. And I remember this Saturn Ion Redline, and it was just a blast to drive. I know a lot of the later cars that Saturn was building were a lot of fun to drive, especially the stuff with the turbos, like the Redlines. I mean, the Sky Redline that I tried to buy, as well as the Ion Redline. They were starting to evolve into a performance brand, and they still had their core audience with the economy cars too, but they did things differently, and I missed their dealerships. They had the absolute best customer service, and the no haggle buying approach was just, some people don't want to deal with a salesman for half the day playing games. Oh, I got to talk this over with my manager, writing up a bunch of different numbers on a piece of paper. It's a game, and some people just want to go in and buy a car like they would buy like a TV. As you can tell from the video, they have bulldozed the main dealership building, which I think is a shame. There really aren't a lot of standing Saturn dealerships anymore, and I kind of was hoping that maybe the last Saturn dealer or the last Oldsmobile dealer or the last Pontiac dealer would be preserved and turned into maybe a little car museum. I don't see why that would be a problem, but people are just knocking all this stuff down like there's no tomorrow. So for the non-car guys that might be watching the video, I guess I should briefly explain what Saturn was. So Saturn was a car brand that was launched in the late 1980s by General Motors, and they focused on economy cars. Their other trademarks were a no-haggle buying approach, as well as dent-resistant aluminum body panels that never rusted. So the cars were quite unique, and my best friend JP was a huge Saturn guy, and bought multiple Saturns and was a loyal customer for probably 10-15 years. So people loved these cars. People loved these dealerships. It really is a shame what happened. So when General Motors went bankrupt, like later around 2008, 2009, one of the conditions to get the government bailout was to discard several brands. And the brands included Hummer, Saturn, and Pontiac. And Pontiac hit me even harder than Saturn, to be honest. I'm a huge Pontiac guy. I love Trans Ams and GTOs, and like I said, I own a Solstice, and I'm in the process of acquiring a couple other classic Pontiacs. So I think it's a huge loss, and I really wish some of these brands would come back. So let me talk about the layout of this particular Saturn dealership. I'm walking up the main entrance right now. Now to the right hand side there would be the used car lot, and to the left hand side is where they usually park the brand new cars. And as I'm moving up towards the front, you'll see this little pavement. This is where the main dealership was located. Now you'll notice that I'm avoiding walking all the way to the back of this property as well as to the right hand side, and that's because there's like a homeless community that has kind of built an encampment here, and I don't want to be trampling through some guy's like makeshift living room, so I'm keeping a fair distance away from the encampment. Now if I recall, the arrow on the ground points to the old service department. If I remember right, The service department was located on the left-hand side of this dealership building that was bulldozed. I scoured this whole area as best as I could, looking to see if there are any other remnants of Saturn, and it's just really the two signs at this point. They basically completely destroyed the site if you're looking for any nostalgia from an old Saturn dealership. There is video on the internet. I'm going to try to find that link of this dealership prior to demolition. I think the video was taken in 2017. And you can see that it was a nice building, and it was kind of a large loss. I was shocked by just how many people kind of camp on this land now. It's crazy. And if it's not like the homeless people, there are like off-grid drifters. You'll notice that there was a green camper that was kind of parked over towards the used car lot. And truck drivers also shut down their semi-trucks overnight here and use this basically like a truck stop. So a lot of people who've kind of moved in on this territory since it's not being used, and it's been sitting for sale for years. This is kind of a depressed area economically, and I can totally understand why no business has been built here in the 15 years since the Saturn dealership went out of business. I mean, this place has been abandoned for like almost 2 decades now. Well, that's pretty much everything here at this former Saturn car dealership. Thanks again for joining me for another travel vlog, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks again, and see everyone next week.